Welcome in. You are sitting courtside with Karli Bell. I unfortunately got sunburned this weekend, so apologies for looking a little busted today. But I'm recording this shortly after the Sky's very close loss to the Minnesota Lynx, and I'm going to get into that a little bit later in the show. But big news that came out on Sunday is the final list of All-Stars, and I'm going to put that right here, but I'm going to read off the names. So the starters for the WNBA All-Star game that will be held in Indianapolis in just a couple weeks is Paige Beckers, Caitlin Clark, Sabrina Ionescu, Alicia Gray, Nafisa Collier, Asia Wilson, Brianna Stewart, Aaliyah Boston, Nneka Ogwumike, and Satu Sabally, with Fee and Caitlin as captains. And then the reserves that were announced on Sunday: Sonia Citron, Skylar Diggins, Ryan Howard, Kiki Iriafin, Kelsey Mitchell, Kelsey Plum, Angel Reese, Alyssa Thomas, Kayla Thornton, Courtney Williams, Gabby Williams, and Jackie Young. Now, when the starters and the captains came out, I want to just denote something here first of how these rosters are made up. 50% of the vote comes from fans, 25% come from media, and 25% come from coaches and players. So I want people to understand that a lot of this is based on who the fans want to see in the All-Star game. Fee and Caitlin Clark being the captains, the way that they became captains is because they were the two players with the most amount of fan votes, so they became captains after that. So the only rookies in this All-Star game are Paige Beckers, Sonia Citron, and Kiki Iriafin. So good to see some good rookie representation. I absolutely think all three of them will have an amazing time. It's really cool to see Sonia and Kiki get some opportunities. I think it was kind of a guarantee that Paige was going to get to the All-Star game. She's just been having an unbelievable rookie season, breaking records left and right, doing incredible things for the Dallas Wings as their point guard, especially now that the Dallas Wings no longer have Nalissa Smith, who I know is a forward, but more change happening within that organization. And it's good to see Paige kind of still find a way to stay settled, poised, and grounded as the team kind of goes through some fluctuations. There were some people on here that I truly believe should have been starters that ended up making a reserve spot, Alyssa Thomas being the biggest one, and Gabby Williams. I believe Alyssa Thomas should be a starter in the All-Star game 1000%. She's just having unreal play. She's doing great things for Phoenix. That Phoenix Mercury team as a whole is just playing at an ultimate high-tier level. And so I believe that Alyssa Thomas should have gotten a starter spot. Gabby Williams as well, I believe, should have had a starter position there. It's something that I think her WNBA renaissance is kind of what I would call it. Her comeback to the W has really been fun to witness, and what she's able to do on all three levels. Somebody I'm really happy that is going to be getting a moment at the All-Star game is Kayla Thornton. I think she is going to have a great time, and I think this is really well deserved for her. I think she's done an incredible job for the Golden State Valkyries. She's done a lot in regards to leadership and what the Valkyries have been able to accomplish and do in their inaugural season in the WNBA. I think it's a phenomenal thing to see her get that. Angel Reese, in my opinion, was kind of the guaranteed from the Chicago Sky standpoint on who would get a All-Star nod. I was a little shocked Camila Cardoso didn't get some looks there, but I just believe that Angel Reese has just done a lot more in specifically the last 5 games to give her that nod, and just what she's been able to do in regards to taking on a new position, becoming a point forward, and tapping into the versatility that we've seen out of her all season is good to see. Everybody else on there, I believe, is worthy of their spots. Jackie Young, Courtney Williams, KP, Kelsey Mitchell, Ryan Howard, Skylar Diggins, all those people very well deserved. There is one person, though, that I just am really shocked she's not getting any All-Star nods, and that would be Brittany Sykes. She is somebody that I've really enjoyed what she's been able to do this season for the Washington Mystics, and I think just this growth in her veteranship, and I know that sounds a little clunky, but I'll explain what I mean here in a second. This growth that she's had in her veteran ways later in her career, this long career that she's had, and her ability to be a leader for the young Bucks and a new head coach and a new general manager for the Washington Mystics is something that I think is really admirable. And also just what she's able to do. Scoring is whatever, but her defense is just something. This is why I wish some defenders get a little bit more love, you know? And I think Brittany Sykes' defensive ability and her ability to create stops, create steals, create deflections, and create turnovers has been really fun to witness from a defensive standpoint. So she's somebody that I really thought would get some nods. I know some people were surprised that Brianna Jones didn't get any looks. I would also agree with that. There were a lot of names that people were like, they should have gotten some looks. Cardoso being one of them, but Sykes is the one across the board that I was really surprised that she's not getting any love. I'm not going to say any love because I don't know who put people on their ballots, but I'm really surprised she didn't make the cut for the All-Star game this year, just with the season that she's had. If we're going to get into it a little bit, I'm very intrigued to see who Caitlin Clark and Nafisa Collier will choose for their all-star teammates in this game. I think it's going to be real interesting. I think you're probably going to see some teammate pairing, like Caitlin Clark will probably take Aaliyah Boston and Kelsey Mitchell. You'll probably see Fee pick up Courtney Williams, probably a few others. I think Stewie, just because they are business partners. I think there's some things that you're going to see there. I could also see NECA joining Fee as well. So I'm intrigued to see who will be on whose team. And we have the two coaches that are coaching in the All-Star game this year, Cheryl Reeve and Sandy Brondello. So nice little rematch. And I think Cheryl is coaching against Fee in the All-Star game. So that'll be really interesting to see what happens in the All-Star game. For those who are unaware, I will be attending the All-Star game this year. What's crazy is when the All-Star game was here in Chicago, I was unable to go, but now that I have a lot more availability and I'm able to go to the All-Star game in Indianapolis. So excited to go and experience my first All-Star game. So I will be on a panel with Azare Stevens, and I want to make sure I get these names right. Yeah, Azare Stevens, myself, and then Lendistry CEO Everett Sands as a way to select small businesses. It's called the Small Biz Shot Clock panel. Very excited to be a part of it, where we get to review finalists who have submitted their small businesses, specifically being women and women of color, and give away some money to help these small businesses continue to succeed and flourish in whatever their businesses are. So I'm very excited to be a part of that panel. I think it's going to be a great time. And then again, if anyone is in Indy for the All-Star game, please, let me know. Would love to grab a drink, grab some coffee, grab a lunch. I am excited to link up with some colleagues of mine in the media industry and have some fun and get to see a fun All-Star game and chat with some people, chat with business, and just have a good time. I'm excited to see what these teams are going to shake out to be, what the game will look like, the skills contest yet again being back. We'll get into some Sky stuff here in a minute, but let's look at what else happened this week. The Las Vegas Aces did acquire Alyssa Smith. They were able to get her out there, and it finally looks like Las Vegas is starting to find some semblance, because they really did not look good. Earlier this week, they put up a franchise low 54 points, with Asia Wilson being the only person in double-digit scoring, which is never a good thing to see. And everyone else was 9, 6, 5, 8. You need more than just Asia for the Las Vegas Aces for them to do anything. And they said after their game on Sunday, where they were able to pick up the win, they said that they find their joy. And it's good to see that happen. It's good to see the Las Vegas Aces kind of come back. They've had a real rough start to the season. It's been a very interesting start to the season. Just a couple weeks ago, Cassie Chantel, who I had on, believes that the Aces are going to blow everything up after this year, with the only real returner being Asia Wilson. And if that does reign true, I am very intrigued to see what Las Vegas will develop and turn into, as more teams get added. And not only that, there was smart news this past week that came out after I recorded last week's podcast, which is the WNBA is expanding into 3 new cities by 2030, with that being Detroit, Cleveland, and Philadelphia. I did a deep dive also on the Patreon, but I'll share my thoughts here as well. First off, love the cities. I'm totally here for it. I think all three cities, they're big sports cities. Detroit and Cleveland are huge basketball cities. So is Philly, but I'm speaking more to what I know. Cleveland and Detroit, big, big, big basketball cities. I'm really excited that Philly's getting a team, excuse me. Philly's getting a team. There's a lot of great players from the Philadelphia area that are in the league. And so there's an opportunity for them to play in front of their hometowns, in front of their families, in front of their friends, all that. So it's really good to see all three get out there. I posed it on the Patreon. I'm going to pose it here. Of these three cities, and the Detroit Shock could come back 1,000%. I think that's very much, that could still be the name, but let's have some fun for a little bit, right? If you're in charge of naming these teams, what names would you give these three teams in Cleveland, Detroit, and Philadelphia? Someone on the Patreon commented, what would it be like for Philadelphia, the Philadelphia Bells, Liberty Bell? I kind of like that. I think that's a fun one. I'm intrigued. I think it's probably going to be Detroit Shock, but I don't know what it could be. I'm very intrigued. I really liked that Golden State did Valkyries. I want to see what else comes out of it. I think it'll be really, really interesting. But to hear more of my thoughts on the expansion and all of that, go ahead and join the Patreon at patreon.com/courtside with Karli Bell. Yeah, it's just been a week of news. Everything's been happening this past week. You have the WNBA announcing expansion. You have the All-Star selections, and then also the news that the WNBA Players Association rejected the first draft. I'm going to call it a draft, the first offer from the league for new CBA negotiations. So Satu Sabali of the Phoenix Mercury called it a slap in the face. So I'm intrigued to see what these negotiations, how they're going to continue. There's going to be more conversations at All-Star Weekend, which is what I'm really intrigued to hear and just think what else could come out of it. What other things are they fighting for? Player salaries is something that obviously is very important, but is it going to be more resources? Is it going to be expanding the schedule? Is it going to be changing the schedule? Is it going to be adding more roster spots? Is it going to be revenue sharing? Is it going to be merchandise percentage sharing? Like what other things does the league and do players want from this CBA? There's only, obviously player salaries is the biggest thing. Player safety, health protocols, things in that regard. All right, before we get into Chicago Sky conversations, make sure you follow us on all platforms at Courtside KB. That's Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, TikTok. If you're on our YouTube channel, please, it's at Courtside KB. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And then, if you really, again, you want to hear some more exclusive content, more thoughts, more breakdowns, things of that nature, go ahead and join the Patreon in that man-to-man tier, which is $6. Not only do you get the podcast early, you also get the exclusive content that comes out on Thursday. It's only $6 a month. You pay more for Netflix, Hulu, everything costs more than $6. Eggs cost more than $6 in this economy, which is wild, mind you. Just insane. And then let's say you're like, you know what, Karli, can't afford that. Guess what? I have a free option for you, which is on our website, courtsidewithkarlibell.com, where I will be putting out content just this week. I'm going to be putting out something when you are watching this on Monday. I am posting something on Rachel Bann. I'm taking on the point guard position. And then I'm also putting out more content on Angel Reese's facilitation and her ability to just become incredibly versatile and tap into what she's been able to do for this team. And that's on our website, courtsidewithkarlibell.com. All right, let's get into Sky. So the Sky took on the Minnesota Lynx on Sunday. Again, recording this shortly after the game ended. And I'm going to say this, man, the Sky looked really great outside of that second quarter against the Minnesota Lynx. And even after that second quarter, they still hung around. They fought all the way till the very end. It was within single digits until there was a three-pointer there were two possessions. There was the defensive possession where the Chicago Sky allowed Minnesota to have two extra offensive possessions by allowing them to crash the boards, and then they were able to convert thanks to Kayla McBride knocking down a jumper, which took off time on the clock for the Sky to not have the ability to have as much time as they would like to come back and make it a game. And then there was Rachel Banham shooting that 3-pointer with just a little too much time on the clock. You know, she was hot all game, put up a season high 20 points, shot or 60% from the 3-point line. So it's one of those things where you're not mad at the shot. It's just one of those shots that you take when there's less time on the clock. And you know what? You learn from it. And I'm going to say this, there's really been growth throughout this Sky team. I would honestly say since that Phoenix Mercury absolute obliteration, like the game shortly after that on June 22nd, when they had that back-to-back, they have really looked a lot more calm and poised in their issues that they had at the start of the season, which was turnovers and perimeter defense, has really been corrected. Sometimes it's one of those things. Now it's all little things. It's all about mental mistakes. Sometimes it's the ball just doesn't want to go into the net. And sometimes you just sit there and you're like, man, we're getting all the right looks. The ball just doesn't want to fall. And you sit there and that happens. That is a thing where we saw Minnesota kind of went through that in the Commissioner's Cup championship. They were getting good looks. They just couldn't get anything to fall. That nothing was going through the bottom of the net. There are nights that happen. What this game was for the Chicago Sky is that second quarter allowed Minnesota to get back into the game, and then it was small mistakes near the end of the game, and it showed where Minnesota's just a more veteran team. They know how to close out games. They know how to come through those clutch moments where the Sky are still learning, and they're so close. They're very, 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 very close to getting there. First time that you've seen all 5 starters in double digits. I've really liked seeing Michaela Onyenwere in the starting lineup. Her being in that starting lineup provides some more speed and physicality defensively that the Sky sometimes need, especially going against a team like the Minnesota Lynx. All 5 starters scored in double digits. Honestly, you can't really ask for much more than what they gave. And then we're going to get into it. But I mean, it's one of those things where you sit there and you look at the free throws and you're like, how did the Sky only get to the free throw line twice compared to Minnesota's 11? And then it kind of got a little bit evened out later, but Minnesota was absolutely getting more free throw attempts from a statistical standpoint than the Sky. And it's something I've kind of witnessed all game. And both Tyler Marsh and Angel Reese were asked about it after their game against the Minnesota Lynx, and we're going to listen to what they had to say.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine that we would only have 8 free throws with the amount of opportunities that we have in the paint. I think that we're top 2 or 3 in the league in terms of shots at the rim, but in the bottom 3 or 4 in the league in terms of getting to the free throw line. And the reason for that, I'm not sure, but I know that Camilla and Elizabeth and Angel receive a lot of contact down there and have a lot of opportunities to be at the rim, and that's kind of how we play as a team. And for us to not get to the line more than that is a little frustrating. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we fought really hard. It's tough when you talk to officials and I ask them, hey, we only shot 2 free throws. We've only been to the free throw line twice up into the fourth quarter, and she tells me it's not her job. So I know it's frustrating because I know how hard we're battling inside. And I think that we came down and fought as hard as we could with what we had. And I just know that we continue to grow in this. And I think this is a leaping step for us. And obviously we know we can compete with the best, but that has to be fixed. And I don't give a damn if I get fined because that shit cheap. And I am tired of the shit. Because I've been nice and I've been humble with it, but I am tired of the shit.
So some choice words from Angel Reese and Tyler Marsh saying that, and they make great points, which is this is a Sky team that does rank in the top 5 in the league when it comes to points in the paint, and they're not getting the calls. You're not seeing Angel, Camilla, Elizabeth, Michaela, I'd even say Rebecca Allen when she gets in there. You're not seeing them get to the free throw line, and you wonder why that is. And there are some games where they're letting the girls just play. They're letting them let them fly and let it be physical or whatever. And then there's some games where they call it incredibly tight. And there really hasn't been consistency. And this is not just in watching Sky games. This is across the league. This is not like, obviously I watch more Sky games than any other team in the league. Obviously, that's what I do. But there's just no consistency in how these games are called. And I broke it down on the Patreon just a couple weeks ago on why the WNBA can't get their own officials and the history behind it, and the training behind it. And if you want to listen to that, join the Patreon, patreon.com/courtside with Karli Bell, and you can get the full breakdown, but I'll sum it up here. The WNBA refs, when they are going through the process of being selected to be a professional referee in either the NBA or the WNBA, regardless of whatever league you are assigned to, you train on NBA G League games. And I'm sorry, the G League and men's basketball and women's basketball have different rules. And the WNBA refs should not be training on men's games. Yes, the essence of the game is very similar between men and women's, but there are different rules. Like the men don't have the 5 fouls double bonus in a quarter rule. That doesn't exist in the men's game. There's certain differences in the men and the women's game, and you need to honor that, and you need to have some things be consistent across the board. Why can't they get their own refs? Absolutely go join the Patreon, patreon.com/courtside with Karli Bell to get that full breakdown. But honestly, I was really impressed with how this guy played against the number one team in the league. You kept it within you led by as much as 14, and then you lost by like 5. You kept it real close. You were never out of the game. It was incredibly competitive. And where they got beat was in transition and then, not getting some calls their way. Transition is something that's kind of been an issue for this guy all season, but I will say this was their best transitional defensive game that I've seen thus far. But when you're playing against a team as fast as Minnesota, Minnesota's going to really make you pay. And then unfortunately, this guy 7 turnovers in the second quarter, and they allowed 10 points in the second quarter off those 7 turnovers, were kind of where this guy had to start clawing back from a hole, because they had 0 turnovers in the first quarter. First time all season that they hadn't given up a single turnover in 10 minutes of play, which is a great sign. Like the turnover issue is getting better, and you're not seeing 25 turnovers a game like we were at the beginning of the season. You're not seeing 40 points off those 25 turnovers. It's gotten a lot more cleaned up for sure. Against a team like Minnesota, anything more than like 10 turnovers, they're going to make you pay. Anything more than 7 turnovers, they're going to make you pay. And they did. On those 7 turnovers, they turned it into 10 points. But I put out on Twitter, because again, recording this shortly after the Sky game against the Minnesota Lynx, what are some storylines, questions that you guys want me to tackle here on this episode? And I'm going to do this a little bit more, but I wanted to kind of get it here first. So someone asked, Zucchini Farmer, solid name, at McCory, said, with the All-Star game approaching, how would you grade the Sky's season so far? What do you think has been the most promising aspects, worrying aspects, and changes you'd like to see? If I was to give it a letter grade right now, I would give it a C. I'd give it a C plus, B minus. That's kind of where I would grade the Sky right now, because this is a team that has gone through, I'm not going to say more adversity than other teams, because other teams have lost some key players, but this is a Sky team that has had to go through losing their starting point guard, and also they've been without their center, who's been playing in AmeriCup for the last couple games. And they've also dealt with a brand new head coach who's instilling a new system with a brand new team. And if you were to ask me this question, how I would grade this guy's season, if you would have asked me this 2 weeks ago, I would have graded it an F. I think right now, just because I've seen so much progress in the last 2 weeks, they're so close to getting it there. I'm going to give it a C plus. Honestly, I would give this guy a C plus so far, because they've had a lot of personnel changes and who's running the offense. You've had to deal with changes in your roster. You also had to deal with playing a lot of games in a short amount of time. And you've had to go against some really tough competition across the rest of the league. But you ask, what are the most promising aspects? The most promising aspects for me right now have been the development of Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso. I think Tyler Marsh has done a really unbelievable job. It didn't show it at the beginning of the season. People got worried because they were like, what is he doing? You want instantaneous results, and that's just not how basketball is. Specifically, Angel Reese, what she has done in becoming a point forward and tapping into this versatility and becoming a facilitator You're seeing that assist number. I think her average now is just shy of 7 a game. She's now averaging 17 points, 17 boards per game in the last 5 games. Like, her trajectory is just gone like this because she's embracing that versatility. You're seeing her drive more. You're seeing her not be afraid of taking shots in the mid-range. She's become a lot more efficient around the rim over these last 5 games. That work has really paid off. And she said it. She's really been proud of the work that she's done here in the last few weeks. And that's why she won Eastern Conference Player of the Week just last week. So that's the most promising aspect of the Sky right now. The worrying aspect is I don't know if there's enough time for the Sky if they want to make playoffs because of how standings are. And this is a team that preached playoffs as the goal of the season, is that we are a team that wants to make playoffs. We are a team that is aiming to make playoffs. We want to be a contender. We want to be competitive. And right now, unfortunately, because right when they started to find that momentum, Courtney Vandersloot went down. And so then they've had to rebuild that momentum back up again by having different people run the offense. And I think what worries me is I don't know if they're going to have enough time. It depends on how they do over these last 5 games before the All-Star break. If they can go 3-3, they just lost to Minnesota, so they're 0-1, but they play 6 games before the All-Star break, as 5 games after I'm recording it, 6 games, including the game on Sunday. If they can go 3-3, you're in a great spot. If you can go 4-2, even better. If you go 2-4, you don't know. Changes that I'd like to see. Again, if you would have asked me this a couple weeks ago, I would have said you need to start shopping some people. You need to start getting some people to get some trades going, make some moves. Right now, with what I've seen, especially out of these last 3 to 4 games, I don't think there's really anything I would change. I think now the Sky are really close. They're very, very, very close. And I will say this, I think this week off that they had from last Sunday to this Sunday has been something that they really needed. They really needed some time off. They really needed to have a moment to rest their bodies, some much needed rest time that they needed to attack these last 5 games before the All-Star break and get into a position where if they want to make playoffs like they've preached since the beginning of the season. Apologies about fireworks. People just blown up fireworks regardless of what time a day it is. But I'm intrigued to see if they can pull this together. Changes, I would not make any change. You know what? No. The one change that I would see is I think you have Michaela Onyenwere stay as a starter in your lineup. I think your starting lineup is Banham, Atkins, Onyenwere, Angel, and then when Camilla comes back, you have Camilla there, but for right now, Elizabeth Williams, and then you have E come off the bench. E and Rebecca Allen be the first 2 off the bench for the Sky. I think that is the change I would like to see, is you keep Michaela in the starting lineup, because what she's able to do, she contributes across the stat sheet. That's what a lot of people don't see. Those numbers might be low, but it's still, she put up 11 points, 7 rebounds, couple steals, couple assists. Like, that's what you want to see. And what she brings defensively in her energy is something that the Sky really, really need as they're still ironing out their defensive identity. Good question. Someone said, I think they can still make the playoffs. I don't know. I think that's my analysis, is I don't know. I think it really depends how they do these next 5 games. I think I can have a better answer for you at the All-Star break. If they can sneak a couple wins out if they can sneak a win out over Minnesota, they play them 3 times here in this 6-game span. They just played them, but 2 more times after this. If you can sneak 1 or 2 wins against Minnesota, you're in a really good spot. But here's the issue, though, with the Sky, is unfortunately they lost a lot early while other teams were getting really hot. Golden State, I don't think anyone anticipated Golden State to have this season that they're having. If the season was to end right now, Golden State would make the playoffs. I don't think anyone anticipated that. The thing that I am a little intrigued about is, if the Sky want to make the playoffs, you need other teams to lose. You need Indiana to lose. You need Washington to lose. You need Las Vegas to lose. You need Golden State you need LA to lose. Like, you're now having to rely on other teams. Do I still think it's a possibility? Yes. Do I think it's likely? Right now, I would say they have like a 54%. No, I would say 48% chance of making the playoffs. Depends on how they do. It really, really depends on how these next 5 games go. Because if they're over the 6-game stretch, over 10 games, they just lost to Minnesota. But if they go 3-3 or anything better than that, 5-1 would be the best that they can do. If they can go 3-3, 4-2, or 5-1, I think it's really fantastic. I think there's a very high chance of doing it, especially with who the Sky play. They play Washington on Tuesday. If you can beat Washington, which if you looked at when they played earlier in the season, they absolutely could have won that game. But then Brittany Sykes goes off for 30 plus points and you don't stop transition and the turnovers were still a problem. Like, it's one of those things where if you beat Washington, you beat Dallas, you sneak a win away or 2 from the Minnesota Lynx, because they looked really good. And then if you're able to sneak out a win over Atlanta, you're in a good spot. Because here, what this Sky team showed in this Minnesota Lynx game, and Rachel Bannum said it after the game, is that they can beat anybody on any given night, and they know that because look at how close they played the number 1 team in the league. I don't think if you would have had this Sky team play Minnesota 4 weeks ago, it would be a blowout. This is a different team than what we saw June 7th, June 10th, June 12th, June 13th. It's just a different team. They're refinding their rhythm and their energy. They're very, very, very close. I think they still have a chance. They just really, I'm not saying you need to win out, but you really need to steal some wins away and continue to play the level that you're playing right now. Now it's like small things, cleaning up small things. Somebody, Samuel Galoy, sorry, Samuel, if I mispronounced your name. He goes, I know hindsight is 2020, but what was the thought process of trading the 3rd pick for Ariel Atkins? I like Atkins a lot and think she's a great player, but with the CBA still not done, wouldn't it make more sense to get a young player with a multi-year contract to pair with Angel and Milla? I believe because the Sky were in a win now mentality, they wanted to get a veteran guard to come in and really help build a winning culture. They did that in bringing in Courtney Vandersloot. So I think that's the mentality in bringing in Ariel Atkins. And honestly, people are still upset about that trade and you can feel some type of way about it. But I really believe what Atkins has done, especially these last, I would say, again, since June 22nd, but like these last 5-6 games, she's proven why the Sky made that trade. I think the Sky don't want to call it a rebuild. They've never called it a rebuild. They refuse to call it a rebuild. And I think they always want to stay in a win now mode. And by getting a veteran guard in here, they thought that could work. And I still think there is a possibility. And I also believe bringing in especially a veteran guard to pair with Bannum, because you didn't know what the rest of free agency was going to look like at that time, was really vital in the development of Angel Reese and Camila Cardoso. And we've seen it because Angel now has a shooter that she can kick out to when she is driving, and that facilitation that Marsh really wants to see out of Angel. Ariel Atkins, Rachel Bannum, when Sloot was on the team, she's providing that. And that veteran presence is very necessary. Somebody asked, guard options they can get after the All-Star break. I don't believe the Sky are going to make any moves. If they do, I wouldn't be shocked, but I also wouldn't be shocked if they don't. I think what this team has shown, especially in this game against the Minnesota Lynx, they've shown that this is a team that really loves each other, and they talk about it a lot, how much this team really loves playing with each other, how much they enjoy playing together. And I think to break that up would be foolish, because then the franchise and ownership is accepting that it's a rebuild. And I don't think they want to do that. And I think that this is a way for them to give this team a chance, because I will say this, if the Sky were to get guard options, then you're losing one of your 2 pillars in Angel or Camila, or you're sending Atkins, or you're sending Will somewhere. And that also doesn't make the most sense. So I really believe that the team that the Sky have right now is the team that will stay here. I don't see them making a move, but again, would not be shocked if they made a move by the trade deadline. But I think specifically this game against the Minnesota Lynx showed that this is a team that really can do it. they can pull it together. They can do this because, I mean, they just hung around the number one team and they hung around the whole game with the number one team in the league. And that's a great sign. So that's all we have on this week's episode of Courtside with Karli Bell. Make sure you follow us at Courtside KB on all platforms. That's Twitter, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, TikTok, all of that. On our YouTube channel at Courtside KB, make sure you comment, like, subscribe, join the Patreon, patreon.com/courtside with Karli Bell, and check out our website, courtsidewithkarlibell.com. That's all we have here this week on Courtside with Karli Bell, and I will catch you next time on the sidelines.